Welcome back to the Be Your Best show on Smart 24 TV. We still continue discussing information and communication technology with engineer Rebecca MUKITTE from Uganda Communications Commission. Rebecca, tell us, in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, what did Uganda Communications Commission do to promote working from home as well as e-commerce?
Thank you. Thank you, Julius. That is a very broad question, but I'll try to approach it from two angles. As you're all aware, one of the outcomes of the COVID-19 pandemic was the fact that people had to work from home, students had to study from home. And a lot of those services and the continuity of life depended on ICTs. So the Commission, much as we also had staff members whose health was a priority, had to continue delivering on its mandate. How? We had to ensure that our services could still be reached by both the operators and our consumers, much as we did not have a full house at the headquarters or at our regional offices, because we're also part of the people who were affected by COVID. The Commission came up with interventions. Let me say that the outcome of the pandemic accelerated interventions that had been a work in progress. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we now had to move faster to get these products and services out to the market. One, the issue of quality of service. During the pandemic, a lot of people, their livelihoods depended on access to the internet. And we had a lot of complaints on the quality. The internet was slow, but it really came from an issue of capacity. That the way the networks were designed in the past was that a certain number of people would leave home in the morning and come to the central business district, which is the city center, to do their transactions. Students would go to school, people would go to hospitals. But now all these services were being accessed through the mobile and on phone. So you find that the network capacity that used to support people before the pandemic could not now handle the traffic that had almost tripled because of the increased dependency on ICT. So the Commission in the past has been doing quality of service monitoring in a scheduled way, maybe once a month or 2 times in a quarter. But we realized that because now there was increased dependency, we needed to have information on network quality on the go at all times, and this information was being driven by our users or consumers. We came up with an application that could be used both on our computers and on our mobile phones. That app was called NetQ, is called NetQ UG, and we really encouraged people to download it and use it. That application would help you see the quality of your connection, both for voice and internet. That application would help you monitor your internet usage, how your bundles were going. That application would arm you with real-time information on the quality of your network at home or wherever you may be or you would be. That was one of the things that was accelerated because of the pandemic and as a response to increase network quality when people are depending a lot on the network. At that same time, we also introduced our e-service portal. And this is a portal that could enable people access what I would call the services that people keep applying for very often, which was type approval and the short codes. Type approval is a service, without sounding very technical, that ensures that the people who are importing telecom gadgets can ensure that the products they're going to import are of quality and aligned to our standards in Uganda. That's the process we undertake now. That's the process that is undertaken by UCC, and that process had to quickly be transitioned into an online process to enable still continuity of service. we had short codes. Short codes are those numbers you use to access certain services very quickly. Not like the one you use to check your airtime, the 131 or the 999, the one you use for police. Those are the short codes. And that service was also put onto, you could apply for that service online without coming down to our offices. But over and above that, the Commission worked with operators behind the scenes and to see that the sector could generally provide a buffer to people. How you find that most of our operators zero-rated access to educational material and content. That is the burden of bundles on parents. So most students could access their online content without being charged for that content on the internet. You find that some of the content that was previously being aired in programming for our broadcasters had to change because our children were home all the time, and a lot of their boredom was buffered by TV and radio. So there was an engagement that was going on behind the scenes to check for the appropriateness of the content that was on our broadcasters' forums, because our children were home during daytime, unlike previous times when they were at school. Okay, and also the programming had to be adaptable. You find that more stations introduced school hours or sessions where they could engage with students directly, and that was still to buffer the time children were spending at home and parents had to work. And also it was a collaborative environment that really buffered the public that had increased dependency on ICTs, unlike in the past.
Wonderful. Now, there are, of course, a few concerns. You mentioned issues of quality of service. There was a lot of complaint during that time, but I'm not sure whether the complaints have gone away completely. Things like dropped calls, the public still complain about it, and the public also feel that they are being, the telecom companies are cheating them. They are not getting value for the subscription they are making. So do you get some of these complaints? If so, what have you done to address these concerns?
Okay, so we have, yes, we do get those complaints, and we do have a very robust consumer affairs team, and this team has created a good working relationship with all our providers. So yes, we receive complaints, and when those complaints come in, much as we encourage our consumers to first complain to their providers, they can also come to us directly, and we can also approach the providers on their behalf. So our interventions come over and above when everything else has failed. But in commendation to our providers, most times when that complaint comes to UCC and we engage the providers, they really come through and follow it through to good, conclusion, or to an agreed conclusion with their customers, with their clients directly. So then the Commission plays more of a mediatory role to ensure that complaints have been addressed by the network providers. The issue of quality and dropped calls, yes, those complaints still come in. Those complaints sometimes come about due to deficiencies in the capacity of the network. If a given part of the network was designed to hold traffic of up to 200 people, and at a given time there are over 350 people, we're definitely going to have a degradation in the quality and in the guaranteeing connectivity. But those are things that are addressed along the way. Of course, there are no interventions that can come in a finger snap for network quality to improve, but through engagement with the providers, you find that they plan better to increase the capacity of their networks in certain areas that have been identified as problematic. Sometimes some of these problems are caused by bad or fake devices that our consumers have, and still the Commission is taking interventions to also address that through another set of stakeholders to see that we increase awareness on the consumer side on how to identify a fake device, how to identify a genuine device, where to get from a fake device to genuine device. I mean, those are interventions now that you find that these affect quality of service, but not directly from the network, but from a consumer angle. And these are interventions that you can remedy with time.
So do you still have plans to turn off fake phones from our networks?
I can't talk about turning off fake phones, but I can talk about an initiative that is being undertaken to increase awareness of the fake phones and how you identify a fake phone. So instead of us focusing on whether they're going to be turned off or not, I want us to focus more on how do our consumers tell at the point of buying. Because still, if it's fake, it's not going to last for long, so it will probably switch itself off at one point, and we pray it does that without causing you harm or burning down your house. But going forward, from now onwards, how do consumers make better decisions when they're buying gadgets? How do they identify a fake phone, a phone that has a genuine email or identification? So that's the journey we're taking with our consumers and other stakeholders.
Okay, the other consumer concern is on turning off some aspect of social media during certain times.
Yeah.
Probably that is what some people know UCC for, but you do quite a lot more than that. What is your view about that public concern about social media? Because the public use it for business, especially Facebook. What is any chances that the public will start using Facebook again?
I can speak to the first part of your question about the concerns of the public and social media, specifically Facebook. We have to, I'm sure we are all aware now of the power of social media. It's no longer as casual as it was in the past. Social media has a lot of influence because it reaches people beyond boundaries, or should I say geographical boundaries. So what I would say about that is that one, all freedoms of access come with responsibility, and responsible usage is to your discretion as a user. No one can dictate upon you how you use social media or how you access it and all. But from the context of the current situation, I would say that the government of Uganda reserves the right to what information reaches its people and how it reaches its people and how it affects its people. Social media, unlike normal broadcasting, reaches people in real time. And the information that is put there, the way it is put there, has to be cast in a way that the government that is acceptable to the standards of the government, both morally and within ethical standards, within moral standards, within security standards. So all those concerns, when you put them in one capsule, if they're not catered to the satisfaction of the government as the overriding entity of power in Uganda, then it's incumbent on the provider to engage and find a middle ground on how those concerns can be addressed.
Okay, let's touch also on the issue of the film industry. Yeah. I know UCC has been instrumental in supporting the film industry. In terms of branding, revenue, employment, how are we performing? And where are we and what plans do we have for developing the film industry?
Okay, so I can speak confidently about the interventions that the Commission has undertaken in the film industry. I'll step back a bit to the time when we introduced local content quotas on our broadcast houses. And those quotas created a gap or a need for local content. So Uganda Film Festival is one of the interventions the Commission undertook that could cater to that local content gap. And over and above the gala, that gala night where people dress up and come and receive their winners, and there's a build-up to that gala night. And the activities in that build-up are phenomenal in terms of how they've grown the sector, the film industry. There are a lot of trainings being undertaken. Trainings both at beginner and masterclass level. These are trainings in production, training in casting, script writing, lighting, all the work that goes into producing a movie. There are trainings that have been undertaken. Now we are at the 9th edition of the UFF. And in this period, over 5,000 people have been trained in different aspects of movie production, film production, or content production. But over and above the UFF interventions, we've also, the Commission, I think, starting last year in 2021, started the Content Development Fund. Now, unlike UFF where we do open entries, the Content Development Fund is targeted interventions of where you see content gaps in the country. Do we have a gap in documentaries? Do we have a gap in children's programming? Do we have a gap in educational content? So you find that the Content Development Fund now, for it, it's now looking at addressing gaps, specific content gaps in our industry. And that and more are still ongoing. The deadline, I think, for UFF entries is about to come to pass, and then we shall undertake trainings up to the build up to the gala night. Same cycle. Yeah.
So there's opportunity to the viewers to get involved, because I see it creates employment, develop skills, and probably will get some movie stars from Uganda.
Yes, and this is actually free, but on a first come, first serve basis. That entire workshop and the trainings and what the entire build up to the UFF gala, all those are free segments of content and information and skills and interventions that the Commission is doing.
Do you think our education system is encouraging young people to move in that direction, or we still think everyone is supposed to be a lawyer or an engineer?
I think the Ministry of Education is undertaking a more skill-based curriculum. I am not so sure how far they have gone into implementing it, but there's been a buzz about a new curriculum. I know that most of our schools, or the schools our children go to, have that component of drama and dance and acting. But then over and above that, even social media has created has encouraged a lot of young people to explore the arts, to be more expressive. Most of the young people now you speak to are on TikTok, and they are on there doing small skits, acting, creating storylines. So if we can build upon that and make them and skill them a little bit more and teach them more how to do better lighting, how to set up their little production areas, even for things as basic as TikTok, world over, young people are making a lot of money off those platforms. Once you do your content and you do it well, you get out of it.
That's encouraging. Briefly, postal and courier services,
Yes.
because I know this is part of your docket.
Yes.
What can you tell us about it, and what opportunities lie in those in that sector?
Okay. Postal and courier, just like you said, in the past it was just postal, it was just letters and getting letters from one place to another. But now there's a component of courier to it, whereby the things that are being moved around are over and above letters. And then that sector has now moved into e-commerce. So you find that even things like goods and services, products, physical products, can now be carried from one entity to another, can now be carried from one country to another through the postal network. That network is not just local, it has international nodes, So you can still send your things from China and get them to Uganda, to Yumbe district when you order online. So still we encourage our users to explore those platforms. The postal network has a reach, especially for the designated provider, has a countrywide reach where items, not just letters, can be dropped. Anything you get online, because it's now doing really strongly in the e-commerce area.
Your final word on how we can be our best in ICT?
My final word, ICT really transforms lives. Over and above ICT transforming lives, having an internet connection will definitely transform your life if you use it productively and safely. You have to ensure that you remain safe online and you use the internet online. Some quick tips on how you can remain safe online: keep your gadgets updated regularly. Do not share your password, have good passwords. Don't download or touch links that you're not sure of. Don't connect onto your networks using other people's gadgets. And if you must, or if you do, make sure that they don't save your password. Those are just quick tips on how you can remain safe online and enjoy your experience.
On that very positive note, we wish to thank Engineer Rebecca MUKITTE from Uganda Communications Commission for ably sharing with us today. This has been your host, JULIUS TOROCH, signing off, and remember to be your best in everything you do.